What kind of collector are you?
Me?
Yeah.
I don't think there's one way to describe the type of collector I am, though. I think the one main theme is that I buy watches that at the moment that I buy them, I really like them.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
You lean a little on impulsive.
I'm impulsive, but so
that.
yeah. If normally I'll buy a watch. I mean, especially under a certain price threshold, but I'll buy a watch if maybe at night, before I'm going to bed, I'm on my computer, on my phone, and I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking to myself, if I wake up tomorrow and that watch is not available, I'm going to be really sad. That's something I'll make that purchase. Yeah, a lot of my watches ended up being bought that way. Some watches you put on the wrist, like the AP, the titanium offshore here. As soon as I put this on the wrist, I liked it way better than I thought I would. And then I have a rubber strap and buckle for it too, which I put it on that for a while, and then I got sick of that, put it back on the bracelet, and it hasn't come off the bracelet. So like, you go through like a whole process of falling in love with your watches, and then you have ones that you don't really wear very often, but every time you go to the WatchBox, you just like having it in the WatchBox, right?
Yeah.
So like,
it looks back at you, it winks a little bit, you know?
Right. I mean, the Cartiers, for that reason. I mean, I got this a few years ago before anybody cared about them. Now, it's like these things sell over retail, which is funny.
You were one of the first.
Right, so I got this watch basically right when it came out, and I really liked it, but doesn't have water resistancy. It's kind of a dressy piece. It comes with an extra strap, which I like, but I never wear it on that strap because like I don't really wear like a leather strap Panerai. I usually just wear it on a rubber. So
it seems like they're trying to make it similar into the territory of what the Roadster was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like they no longer make the Roadster, so they needed that versatile dress up, dress down watch, a little bit more rugged and sporty, but still not sporty and rugged. And I think that this watch is really fitting the bill, especially with the ease of being able to change the straps, the size, the look and feel. So they've done a good job with that.
They did a great job with it, but so does the Roadster have a screw-down crown? I'm trying to remember.
It does.
It does.
Yes.
So that's the thing. So this watch doesn't. The water resistancy, I can't take that in the water. So
This would be great if it had better water resistance.
It did.
This should be 100 meters.
I would wear because
It is 100 meters, so I wonder why it's not.
I won't take that in the water.
No, it should be a screw down crown.
There's a little gas.
Back in Florida, I'm in the pool every day at least, or we're going during the summer. We're on the beach, and I'm going to wear my Panerai. Even this being a chrono without screw down pushers, I'll wear this in the pool. I don't think I'd take this in the ocean, but I'll wear this in the
you
pool.
Can splash it around.
My Panerais, like I'll wear this, any time of day or night, and that's kind of why I think I have 4 Panerais in my collection. So the perfect watch to wear kind of all day long. It's a great Florida watch for me.
Yeah.
But again, so like I don't really get to wear this very often, and now it's worth way more than I paid. But every time I think about, maybe I could trade this into something that I would wear more often, I'm like, then I'll be missing this piece. So like, if we go out to dinner, if we go out and have like, where I don't want to wear an AP, but I want to wear something fancier than a Panerai.
Exactly,
it fits that. So like, it's not going to leave the collection.
I think Cartier did a killer job with the Santos. Like even the new chronos with the push on the other side. There's a gold one we have that like on Valentine's Day I was kind of lusting over.
Pieces also.
The skeletonized piece
people go crazy
is
for them.
killer. A screw down crown, that would be awesome. That I would take it to like a little one step above.
That would allow me to wear that watch. That would be my daily wear for like a week at a time, which that's kind of my rotation is basically like a week and a half. I'll switch up my watches, and I would have no problem wearing this throughout the entire week if I could take it in the pool or take it in the ocean.
Yeah, do anything. What about yourself?
So I would actually describe myself somewhat as the opposite of him. I'm not impulsive at all. I think through the purchase and the acquisition. I'm not so much thinking of the watch as would I own this for a month or 2 months and then trade it in. I almost look at it like, is this a watch that I would perceivably own forever? More often than not, I find that I like a watch better. More often I will see a watch that I like that I think looks amazing off the wrist, and that when I then put it on the wrist, I don't like it nearly as much. The Royal Oak was always that watch for me. For the longest time, I wanted one. The 39s actually fit me quite well. It was the bigger sizes that they would have come out with that I just wanted them to look nicer on my wrist, and they just never did. It was just the way that the watch itself was constructed. The black ceramic piece, actually, the perpetual on the bracelet, I think because of the nature of the ceramic and just how it reflects and looks, it looks a little bit smaller.
Exactly.
But overall, again, it's an example of a watch that I love it off the wrist, but on the wrist, not so much.
How often do you buy a watch? I always wonder. Like in your peak watch collecting or watch, like what's your time period between watch purchases or acquisitions, you'd say?
I wouldn't even say that there's a defined time period. It's more just when the right watch comes along that fits in with my collection or kind of watch that I'm wanting to own for that time. I tend to focus on watches that are 36 to 40 millimeters max. It seems like finding my sweet spot at around 38 millimeters. Somewhat esoteric and quirky watches. Everything from, I brought a couple here on the table, from a older 5065 Aquanaut to I'm wearing a 37 millimeter Roger Dubuis Sympathy to a Gevril Tribeca. So I'd say I don't really limit the brands that I like. I could fall for a Diver 65 from Oris as easily as I would fall for a Journe Astronomique. So really just comes down to the aesthetic. Do I think that the watch was executed nicely? I'm just as much a believer in pre-owned or new.
That's true. You don't discriminate.
I don't discriminate. Like I honestly, I'm just as happy to buy a pre-owned watch as I am a new watch.
Yeah, I think so too. I think there's a few new watches where, of course, if it's a retail price, blah, 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 or something that I see that immediately, but we've been in a pre-owned business and there's not much watches that don't flow. If you could wait for it, it's gonna pop up. Even the most random watches you could think of, some watches I've seen you there's only, I always watch you and using George Mayer when new watches come in, because if there's a moment where you go to the corner and just very, very silent, I have to see this watch. I know there's a few watches out there that you've only seen once or in an auction that you always kind of chase or fawn over. It's always interesting because you've seen everything, right? You're just like Mike Man, just where pretty much everything has been through your hands. So there's certain watches where when I see your light bulb go on, I gotta dig into it and see what's that for sure.
The only watch that I really regret recently, that I feel like I missed on it, where I should have probably pulled the trigger and I just didn't for whatever reason or another, or I may have been looking at another watch, was a Vacheron Saltarello that had come in, the rose gold pink dial piece.
Oh, you should have took that.
Was just glorious.
You should have took that.
I've fallen in love with some of these late 90s, early 2000s watches, a lot of the pre-Richemont pieces before, when the brands were more independent. And I just loved it. Yeah. So, but the watch went on one of Tim's videos or shows. A customer saw it,
very
somebody
quickly.
That's like family to WatchBox, and he loved the watch, and
that was sweet. Congrats, because that was a sweet watch. And I remember seeing that video.
Can't get high on your own supply.
Yeah,
so
it is one of those things. I feel the worst for you, because there's so many situations where it's such a dope watch. I know you're just let me just come on, and it's just for the good of the company. But I know that Saltarello was just an awesome, sweet, unique piece, and it does show your taste and the sympathy as well. You really turned me on to those '90s Roger Dubuis. I used to see it once in a while, watch you on. We used to always get a couple in Florida, but you really turned me on into looking into that catalog and the amazing complications, the case styles, everything, and they're really substantial watches as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've always liked interesting cases, things that are different, watches that are almost art or a conversation piece as much as they are a timepiece.
Makes sense. Something
to talk about with other collectors, or a piece that I can teach somebody something about watches that they may not already know. And a lot of ums in there from me.
Yeah, it sounds like it looks like you like more watches more on the dressy side. Even even the Gevril is on the leather strap. Like the sportiest watch on the table is kind of like a delicate sport watch. You know what I'm saying? Like your Aquanaut.
Yeah, no, and you know what? I tried to balance out what I brought, but I have, again, I have everything from Breitling Aerospace at home, Omega Seamaster, Nautilus watches, stuff like that, which I would say classifies a little bit more sporty. But I tend to agree. I don't think I don't wear that many just true tool sport watches. And I think it's more size than anything else. They tend to have gotten larger over time. And, I top out at around, in my opinion, around 40 millimeter.
So I can't get you to try on the oceanographic.
You're the only one in the room who can wear that.
Yeah, and even me, I'm barely
double wrist it.
Yeah, I'm struggling.
It's tremendous value right now too. I mean, those are pre-owned or selling for, probably less than what it costs to make.
Yeah, no, I can't imagine the research and development costs that went into these, and that gets into me a little bit. I would classify myself as a nostalgic buyer, right? There's many collectors throughout the years I've met who throughout their years, they've seen many great watches or met friends who have great watches. Maybe they're not in a position themselves to get it, but they remember these watches, and when they're at that position, they circle back and start collecting those pieces. I think that's kind of where I classify myself. For a long time, I was chasing the 5711 to be my first watch ever, and for market reasons, I don't think that's gonna happen. I don't think that'd be a wise decision.
You missed out on that
one. So it really took a long time. Josh knows, he's always fighting me to get a watch, but it really took a long time to figure out what is my next watch. The thing is, we see so many great watches, and every day there's a new favorite watch. So I decided to kind of collect watches, or I'm gonna start collecting watches that are just kind of pivotal points in my career. So I brought a few examples of that there. Let's start with the Breitling Chronomat 44.
Exactly.
Without Breitling, there is no CQ, the watch guy. It's where before Breitling, there was CQ, and he was a nice guy. And to get to the next level of my career, I had to master Breitling, and I had to literally chop up a catalog, make flashcards. A lot of late nights and a lot of rum later, and I mastered the catalog. And through that, I was able to sell Patek and all these other brands. So the Chronomat 44 is always a great watch in my memory, just because it kind of came around when I started in the industry, in-house movement. And this particular watch, they don't make anymore with the rose gold Roman numerals, but I sold this many, many times to people with Heinekens in their hands. It's always, always a great memory.
Well, and I want to say something about that watch too. As big and like garish as it looks, and it's a common theme with these two. And if you haven't noticed, these are manual wind, and that's one of the reasons is that they sit a little slimmer on the wrist. Is that watch actually sits very nice on the wrist. So I have a Chronomat 44 all steel on a rubber strap that I wear just very sparingly. But when I wear it, I'm like, it looks so big, and then you put it on the wrist, I'm like, all right, this is manageable. I can handle it too. So I think they get a bad rap too, because those 48 millimeters that they were making were a little absurd. But those are great watches.
They had a sizing issue. Like when I started, they made everything from like 49s. Had this in a 47 GMT. Then you had the 41s. But the 44 was kind of meant to be like the Daytona-ish killer. The price point was a little too high in my opinion. This on a two-tone bracelet was around $13,995 or something like that, which is just a lot, even though it's in-house movement. If this was a $9,000 all-in on a two-tone bracelet, like this would be one of like, you could not stop selling this watch.
And you can find those probably listed online on bracelets for probably like $5,000 or $6,000.
Amazing prices, yeah. For what I used to sell them to what I buy them from now, it's interesting conversations, because it is like sweat equity, right? Like no matter what, just like me, like whatever I get is like I work very hard to get it, and you make these sacrifices to get whatever you get. So sometimes trading and watching, especially if you're not gonna make out on it, it might hold you there. So I actually like that idea. Put it somewhere, let it kind of go away from your memories, get the trade, realize that watch you do want to get into, and then, kind of.
And that's regardless if I'm making or losing money on it, because I'd say the majority of watches that I bought personally, if sold, I've lost money on them. Or it cost me something to wear them. Yeah. I don't like saying like lost money, because everything costs money.
If you enjoyed the watch, you didn't lose anything.
But I mean, I've traded watches for like fishing gear before, and like, I traded some like, I got a Topper's Seiko that I really, really liked, and then realized that I wasn't ever gonna wear it over like my Panerai or anything, so it sat in my box. So then a buddy of mine's like, I've been looking for this watch. I'm like, okay. He had fishing gear, I had the watch. We made that trade, and now I use that fishing gear twice a week. So now I get to enjoy that watch through fishing every week. So that's how I look at it as well. So very emotional for me.
The Seiko guys are coming for you, by the way.
They can come. Yeah. That's fine. Yeah, I have plenty of them. But
I do think we're fortunate, at least from the perspective of we have an understanding of the value of the timepieces and like the market at large.
It's easier for us, yeah.
And so it's easier to move in and out of watches. It's easier to.
We don't have to question if we're like giving it away or anything like that. Which
correct.
That's one thing.
Like know that when you're doing a trade, that for the most part, you know what the value of the watches that you're trading, and you're really just deciding how much do I want to sacrifice in order to move into the next watch that I want, and am I willing to lose that in this particular transaction? And I'm somewhat similar in the sense of above a certain threshold, I generally trade, and then I go back and I look and say, okay, like what am I willing to give up? And if I'm not willing to give up anything, then perhaps it's not the right, I'm not going to make the purchase, or it's just not the right moment. And right now I'm in this weird spot because I just love everything I own, and so I just don't. There's nothing that I want to give up. So if I do have to go and acquire something, it's.
What was the last watch that tempted you?
The last watch that tempted me.
Has there ever been a time that you walked in like another store, you're on vacation, you saw like a watch and it's like, has that ever happened?
So being in an actual watch store on vacation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was in, and it's all like afterthought, right? Because all of these stories sort of end with like it wasn't that way at the time,
Yeah.
right? Like it was just a different time. And I think I was in London back in 2015, and I think it was 2015 during Patek was doing their grand exhibition over there, and one of the retailers had one of the grand exhibition watches, and they were showing the watch, and it was one of their re-edition watches, and those are bringing big money now, and I probably had the opportunity back then to purchase the watch if I had wanted to. But, again, at the time, like, number one, I wasn't going to buy the watch from the store.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a different world now. The watch is worth different than what it was back then. But I think, I'd say no, like, not, like, it's rare that I'll walk into a watch store and I'll just pretend to just be somebody random, because I wouldn't want somebody doing that in one of our stores. So I'll generally introduce myself wherever I would go.
And they escort you right out.
Exactly. There's the exit. But no, I can't think of much that I would say that I've missed out on, or that I've been truly upset about.